I'm sorry, a plug-in hybrid Range Rover just doesn't make sense comprehensively in any way. Land Rover are not known for their electronics. Land Rover are not known for creating something that's a good city car. Why are they doing this? Again, I understand it's for regulations and everything that's going to come out, but this is stupid. As we know, Land Rover have full control over being able to, no pun intended, pull the plug at any moment on a model, the new Range Rover SV Coupe, for example. But I would rather have that than a plug-in hybrid, full-sized Range Rover for the hippie who wants a Range Rover in their life. A couple of weeks ago, I did a video about everything we know in regards to the 2020 Land Rover Defender, but that's not the only car that Land Rover make, or I guess don't make, but will make, but haven't officially made yet. Anyway, there is still a full model lineup of new cars that Land Rover are planning to introduce within the next couple of years that really will kind of change the way that Land Rover moves, including a new Range Rover Sport model, a new Range Rover full-size model, a new Range Rover Evoque, which they announced late last year, as well as the new Defender, which we already talked about. The new Defender, for example, will be coming out in 2020. More will be announced with it in late 2019, but aside from that, if you want to know everything that we currently know about the 2020 Defender, you can check that out in the eye above. For this video though, we're going to talk about every other model that we know will be changed over the next couple of years. So let's get started with the new Range Rover Evoque, which Land Rover announced some news and some pictures of the new Evoque late last year in 2018, but really, they didn't talk too much about what the new Evoque is actually like, and it's pretty much just a small little baby Velar. And speaking of the Velar, the best thing about the new Evoque is that it has the new Velar style interior with the Touch Pro Duo displays, as well as, for finally in the Evoque, a nice beautiful display in replacement of the traditional gauge cluster. Moving to the exterior though, the new Range Rover Evoque has a flat front grille like many of the new Range Rovers do. It also has the sleek hidden door handles that we have seen previously in the Velar, as well as having a system that shows you what is beneath the engine bay with cameras. On top of that, it has the clear sight rear view mirror, which is essentially a camera system in the back of the car, so if you have lots of luggage in the back of your Evoque, you don't need to use the rear view mirror as a normal mirror to see your luggage. You can use the rear view mirror as a camera to show everything behind your Evoque. It also comes with the Land Rover activity key, which essentially means you can put a little Fitbit style wristband on your wrist, and then you can go do sporty things, and your keys left tucked away in the boot. And that's really all we know about the new Evoque, but it is not everything we know about the next generation of Land Rovers. Next up, we have the new Range Rover Sport PHEV, which sounds a bit like an STD, and you would be correct. It is spreading, and it is a cause that is spreading way too quickly. Hybrid Range Rovers. The disease that will kill all. And this new disease of Range Rover Sport hybrids starts at about $78,000, equal to about 2 nights in the intensive care unit. And it comes with the very impressive and very large, masculine 2-liter P400e plug-in hybrid. The new Range Rover Sport PHEV will hit 60 miles an hour in about 6.3 seconds. It has actually a pretty impressive 398 total horsepower. And that is impressive up until you hear that 296 of it is actually only from the petrol engine. The rest of it comes from the electric motors that are driving the rest of it. The Range Rover Sport will reach an impressive, I suppose, 136 miles per hour. And the most impressive part about the new Range Rover Sport PHEV is that they were able to pull out a total 31 miles of electric driving. That can't be right. Is that correct?
That's what it says.
31 miles?
31 miles.
I take that back. That is actually not the most impressive thing about the new Range Rover Sport PHEV. The most impressive thing is that it takes 14 hours to recharge for that distance of 31 miles. So you could get from here to about an hour away on highway cruising in about a day and a half. Overall though, I do understand that the whole electric driving in the Range Rover Sport, and really the full-sized Range Rover that we'll talk about in a minute, is really to be used for quick drives around town. Small cities, well, big cities with small distances in between places. Living in a small town with a distance of only 31 miles for the electric motors themselves would be actually just inconvenient. But I understand it's a hybrid setup, so you are able to fill it up with petrol and continue to drive it and do what you want with it. But I'm sorry, 31 miles on electric driving is just not gonna cut it. And the new plug-in hybrid Range Rover Sport sits between the HSE and the HSE Dynamic, according to the model lineup, judging by price. But you would have to be an idiot to get this. And now it's time to talk about the new full-size PHEV Range Rover. And before we jump into this, I want to say one thing. I am a die-hard Land Rover fan. I love every model that they come out with. I study them obsessively. I want to know everything about the newest models that I can possibly know. I love my 2011 Range Rover, and I can't wait to buy another new Land Rover model. Well, not new, because I wouldn't take that depreciation hit, but another Land Rover model. I'm really excited for the future of this channel and everything that it's going to bring with different Land Rover models, because I have so many plans for it. But I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of this. I think if they're going to do this, that's great. I understand they're trying to keep up with where the market's going, and they're trying to really grasp that hippie-loving Range Rover driver that doesn't exist. I just don't get this. I understand that for regulation reasons, they have to come out with some hybrid setup. I get that. But I'm sorry, if they're going to do it, they need to commit and do it. Actually make something that's worth a damn. 31 miles on the electric motors is pathetic. And I can't say that the full-size Range Rover, which should be able to house bigger batteries, is going to have a better distance. In fact, it doesn't. There is one perk about the full-size Range Rover that the smaller Sport doesn't have, and that's that it can charge much quicker. We'll get to that in a minute. But this is just not the way this needs to be done. Like I said a million times over in every video, I'm a die-hard Land Rover fan, but this just... do it or don't. This is a company that has access to another company which has done actually pretty well at electrification of their models. If they have access to the same components because they share engines with the 5-liter V8, why can't they share that technology and start with something smaller like the Evoque or the Velar? Make that a fully electric vehicle, or at least give people the option of buying one that's fully electric, and then introduce it into the bigger model lineups. I'm sorry, a plug-in hybrid Range Rover just doesn't make sense comprehensively in any way. Land Rover are not known for their electronics. Land Rover are not known for creating something that's a good city car. Why are they doing this? Again, I understand it's for regulations and everything that's going to come out, but this is stupid. The full-sized Range Rover is not something that people buy when they want to save money. It's $100,000. If they want an electric SUV, what's so wrong with the Tesla Model S? And if they want a cheaper luxury SUV from Britain, which creates the best luxury cars in the world, why don't they buy the Jaguar? Why would you buy a full-sized L405 Range Rover to have it as a plug-in hybrid that can go 31 miles on its electric motors to get you essentially from your gate at your house to the end of the neighborhood? Nevertheless, this new majestic plug-in hybrid Range Rover will cost you a starting price of around $95,000. So essentially, the new plug-in hybrid Range Rover has the same setup as the Range Rover Sport, which makes sense. If they're going to do this, they might as well just use it in every model. But rather than having a nice supercharged 5-liter V8, you get a nice P400E 2-liter engine, I think. It'll do 0 to 60 in 6.4 seconds if that matters to you in your full-sized luxury SUV. But don't keep it on electric mode for too long, because again, it will only go 31 miles. However, Land Rover claims, and this is what I was talking about earlier, that the new L405 plug-in hybrid Range Rover only takes 2 hours and 45 minutes to charge, which is impressive considering that it's not 14 hours. It takes a solid 11 hours less. It sits between the HSE and the supercharged Range Rover, and if you don't go for the HSE, there is something wrong with you up here. You save money, and you also don't drive a plug-in hybrid Range Rover. Essentially, this new L405 Range Rover plug-in hybrid is the same thing as the Range Rover Sport plug-in hybrid, except in the L405 body, and with $20,000 added onto the price tag, you would have to be mad to decide that you wanted that over the Range Rover Sport, which is pretty much the same thing. It just takes 11 hours longer to charge, but it's not like it's going to matter. You can't drive it a long distance anyway, so it doesn't matter if it takes 14 hours to charge or 2 hours to charge, because you can't get anywhere on it. And this is the problem that Land Rover are having with this whole electrification of vehicles. It's a joke, and they're only doing it because they're being forced to. I'm sorry, Land Rover, if you have access to this company that's creating this same thing that you want to create in these vehicles, why not use their technology and their parts? License it from them at the very least. But Tata, if you're listening, which you're not, obviously, but why would you make this company come up with their own solution and their own design to this, rather than letting them use the E-Pace as a model to base the Velar or the Evoque off of, and then introduce it into the larger vehicles? People already want the larger vehicles. They don't need to have a plug-in hybrid option available in them. It's just unnecessary. So why not start with these smaller models like the Evoque and the Velar, or even, I don't know, the Discovery Sport? Make that an electric vehicle. Make the Discovery Sport a very good electric vehicle that competes with the E-Pace, that can actually go a distance of 40 miles. I think that they're going about this in the wrong way, and I have mad respect for Land Rover for attempting this with the full size and the Range Rover Sport, but I just don't see it happening. They're going to have to introduce something that's actually worth the damn to make it worth the money. People who are looking at a Tesla Model X aren't going to go look at the Range Rover and see that it can go 31 miles without using gas and go, yeah, I'll get that. And that's really who you're trying to appeal here to. The people who want an electric full-size SUV, but also something that can climb a mountain with the Range Rover. And that's where the problem comes. You're creating something that nobody is asking for. Plug-in hybrids were the thing to have 10 years ago. We're 10 years past that point, and Land Rover is the company that pushes the bounds for what's possible in a car. And this has been done many times over by small companies funded by a guy who started a website. I'm sorry, you have access to billions of dollars in money, as well as some of the best engineers in the world. You can do better. So that's my opinion about the electrification of Land Rover's model lineups. I think they're going about it in the wrong way. If you're going to electrify the vehicles, don't do it based on what people wanted 10 years ago with a hybrid Chevy Tahoe. Do it to what people expect now. Create an all-electric, good SUV. I understand they have to be capable off-road, and they have to be capable of doing the things that people expect a Land Rover to do. Jaguar pulled it off. It does everything you expect your Jag to do. So why can't you create something that is a Land Rover, just in electric form? You can do better than a 31-mile and 14-hour recharge. So with that, I ask, what's your opinion about the future of Land Rover? Are you excited for it? Are you a little pissed off about it like some people? I won't name names. Or do you think this is actually going to be a really good idea? I'm curious to know. It's something I'm obviously very passionate about. I wasn't planning on this video being this way, but it's ended up that way. I don't understand why they're doing it this way, but they are, at least as of now. As we know, Land Rover have full control over being able to, no pun intended, pull the plug at any moment on a model, the new Range Rover SV Coupe, for example. But I would rather have that than a plug-in hybrid, full-sized Range Rover for the hippie who wants a Range Rover in their life.